This episode of the I Am Salt Lake podcast is brought to you by Sari Clementine Clothing, located at 366 South 500 East, number 104, in beautiful downtown Salt Lake City.
What's up, Salt Lake City? Welcome to the I Am Salt Lake podcast, episode 26. I am your host, Chris Hollifield. I am your guide from episode to episode to episode as I take you on that journey through beautiful Salt Lake City as I introduce you to musicians, professionals, local people, just people doing really rad stuff here to make it just a little bit better to live in, make it the city is awesome as it is. So thank you very much for taking a few minutes out of your day to download us, to listen to us, however you're listening to this episode. Thank you very much. We are online. IamSaltLake.com. That's going to connect you with us. Our email, our voicemail. It's going to connect you with iTunes so you could subscribe, as well as Stitcher Radio. It's got our email, voicemail, all that good stuff, as well as each and every previous episode of the podcast, which you can listen to directly on the website if you want to, or you can download us and put us on your iPhone or other MP3 device, whatever you listen to podcasts with. So thank you very much for taking a few minutes out of your day and checking us out. This episode, really, really cool episode. I had an opportunity to sit down with Jesse at the Shred Shed downtown. They're located on Exchange Place, right across the street from the heavy metal shop there in downtown Salt Lake City. We sat down and we talked. I got to know him a little bit better and find out about his all-ages venue that he's running here in Salt Lake. All-ages venues really, they're really important to me. I mean, I've been going to shows and concerts since I was 13 years old. I just recently turned 35 years old. So you do the math and how many years I've been seeing live music. The first show I ever went to, I was 13 years old. I was living in Ventura, California at the time. I went to go see the Violent Femmes. And you know what? Ever since then, I've been going to see live music as much and as often as I can. And if it wasn't for places that allowed people under the age of 21 to go see music, I would have never been exposed to some of the music that I've been exposed to. So places like the Shred Shed are really important. They're a really big asset for making Salt Lake City what it is. And the fact, I mean, we have two really killer all-ages venues, the Shred Shed and Kilby Court. And without either one of those places, Salt Lake City really, the music scene is incredible here because of those venues. And luckily enough, here in episode 26, I had an opportunity to sit down with Jesse and get to know him a little bit better, find out kind of how he started it. You know, he was at one location that got shut down, and how he got this new location set up. So it's a really fun conversation. I would listen, tell me what you think of it, drop me an email, leave us it takes just a millisecond to leave a review on iTunes. Tell us what you think of the show. It really helps us out, bumps up our ratings, and helps us get exposed to more people. So that would be really killer if you could do that. So anyways, I am going to quit rambling now. I'm going to jump right into the conversation that I had with Jesse over at the Shred Shed here in Salt Lake City. So, I mean, we're at the Shred Shed. I'm talking with Jesse. You're the guy who started this whole thing, correct?
That's right.
You're the guru, the mastermind. Give me a little bit of prior history. We were talking before we were recording, kind of you were in a different location before you came here.
That's right.
And how long were you at the other location for?
So we had the first Shred Shed for, probably about 19 or 20 months.
Okay.
So a little over a year and a half. The first Shred Shed was not started by me alone. It was myself and my friend Mike Kundick, who he has like a nonprofit organization now called AFLA. But anyway, Mike and I have been in a band together for about 3 years called Loom. And we started the first Shred Shed as a place for Loom to practice and just a place for occasional live shows. If a band had like a show fall through, we could help them.
And it kind of took off, and you started having quite a bit of shows there, correct? I mean,
yeah,
is that kind of,
right.
and then it kind of just didn't go in the direction.
Basically. I mean, I think a lot of like DIY underground venues, it's like the same story. It starts out, it's like one show a month, and then it just starts picking up because people start contacting you and hearing about it, and that's how it went. We started having, I mean, we still were pretty good about it, in my opinion, no more than a few a month. It started gaining a good amount of attention, and I think just a little too much attention. Obviously, we like didn't have the proper permits to do it. It was just kind of like a fun thing to help out. So yeah, the city contacted us. And
So when did that get shut down then, approximately?
little bit over a year ago.
A little bit over a year ago. And then when that shut down, did you kind of quickly start looking for a new place then?
Kind
or
of.
how did that process start?
Yeah, kind of. So it was like the summer of last year, of 2011, that they contacted us. We kept the building for like 2 more months, and we actually had one last final secret show like the last couple days that we were there. And that was September, so last September. Now, the following month, I believe October, it was pretty quickly, I just went into the Salt Lake City County building and just started asking questions about what it would take to open up an all-ages venue legitimately. Just started gaining information, talking to a couple real estate agents, started looking for buildings, and it was about 4 months after that, 5 months after that, it was like this February, 9 months ago, I found this building, and we, started the process of trying to negotiate to get me into the building, I guess.
So what attracted you to, an all-ages venue versus a bar? But, I guess besides the liquor laws and stuff like that, all ages, what attracts you to all-ages shows, I guess?
Totally. So, that's a great question. Now, first off, when it comes to like getting the liquor license, it's a difficult thing, but it's not like an impossible thing. Yeah. And I like, even at this point, after now being open, it wouldn't be too tricky to put some time and effort into seeking that out. In my opinion, that's probably an ignorant statement. But,
No.
Salt Lake City and any community nationally absolutely needs all ages music venues. Any type of music art scene, in my opinion, it needs to be all ages. There's like this, Ian MacKaye, the lead singer of Fugazi, has this like incredible quote, and I wish I could remember exactly what it was, but it's like, there's this invisible line when you become 21 that you can like go to these bars and venues, and if you're under 21, you are limited with your options for activities. And without all ages venues or clubs or art galleries, the chance of youth getting into trouble is a lot higher because they've got nothing to do. So they're going to go out and vandalize and do drugs. And that's me speaking from experience personally. Salt Lake City years ago, 10, 15 years ago, when I was a teenager, there was a handful of amazing all-ages venues downtown. There was like the Deviate Club, this place called Lo-Fi, Albee Square, and Kilby Court's been around forever. Me personally, being like 13, 14, up to 21, basically, going to these shows and just being touched by like passionate musicians and just this incredible connection between strangers and these people that are creating this art. It's like a very powerful thing, and it shaped me, and I like just love the opportunity to be able to like supply that for like a new community. At this point, there's a lack of all ages venues. There really is one, and that's Kilby Court, and thank God they've stayed around. It would be terrible if they, for some reason, had gone away years ago. And I love the idea that I have the opportunity to like help reignite maybe getting younger kids to go to shows. By the time they turn 21, they're then going to go to bar venues. But if there's no all ages scene, then the bar scene will eventually go away. You know what I mean? It like goes hand in hand.
Absolutely. I'm a huge fan of all ages shows personally myself.
Totally.
Just because I believe chances are you're there to truly see the band versus there to, let's get some drinks and see the band.
Exactly. Totally. And like from like playing in bands and just setting up shows at different venues, it's sometimes kind of a struggle setting up shows at bars where the majority of my friends or our fans or whatever, like a small crowd that is, end up getting caught at the bar, just drinking beers, which is like totally understandable. It's a fun social thing, and I like that too. But when it comes to something like this, I mean, look around. There's nothing else to do really except for watch the music. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's kind of a cool thing. I like being a part of it. I guess if that answers the question.
How did you get involved in music? I mean, you grew up here in Salt Lake.
That's right.
You started going to shows at an early age, it sounds like, from what you were talking about. I mean, who introduced you to some of your first shows?
So my older sister, absolutely. I was like fortunate enough, I think, to have a sister that was like 3 years older, that somebody turned her on to, Bad Religion and At the Drive-In and Bouncing Souls and like these different punk bands. And she just started taking me out to these all-ages shows. On 9th and 9th, there's like an old movie theater called The Tower, and they used to have shows there. And I saw I saw AFI open up for The Offspring in like '98, and like that show stuck out for me. My older sister started, taking me to shows. Started going to shows when I was about 22. I moved to Santa Cruz, where I'm originally from and my dad's from, and a bunch of family out there. And I started throwing shows, not really knowing what I'm doing. Just like went to a bar, kind of BS'd my way into like getting a gig, helping them throw shows. And I just started learning as I was going. The band Loom from Salt Lake City, friends of mine, I started booking them. And after throwing them multiple shows in California, they took me on tour with them and asked me to join. And so I moved back to Salt Lake City. And that was really like probably the first step for me, being like very involved in the Salt Lake City music scene.
So you play with Loom now, then you're part of them. I mean, how do you juggle time to run this place and be in a band? And
totally.
I mean, you probably work another job and another job and another job besides that.
Yeah, totally. So yeah, I do have like 2 day jobs to pay the bills, but I mean, I hate to say it, and I miss it, but Loom isn't very active right now. Our drummer and bass player had like this crazy random opportunity to join a band from the East Coast, Norma Jean.
Wow.
They're like touring with Norma Jean all the time. It's crazy. So, I mean, we haven't played a show in like 6 months. And it's interesting because like, I mean, at first we were all like very sad, like excited for them, sad for us because we can't jam, because they've just been gone for months. I mean, for me, like, it's just totally been a blessing. There's like trying to juggle band practice also would just be very tricky for me. And it's interesting because Will Sartain and Lance Saunders that own Kilby Court and Urban Lounge, both of those guys are in like a band or 2 each. I don't know how they do it, but yeah, it's kind of crazy. But
well, and that's kind of even what I'm trying to show people with what I'm doing is these people say, oh, I don't have time to do anything, but it's like, these people that are doing really awesome stuff here in Salt Lake City, they're running on 3-4 hours of sleep a lot of times at night, and I'm sure you can agree with that, where it's like, there might be a night where you're up till 2 or 3 in the morning getting right back up to go to work your day job at 6 a.m.
Totally, man, yeah.
So, I mean, looking a little bit more on this space, I mean, you got a really rad thing going here. I mean, what are some of the challenges that you faced? I mean, were the neighbors pretty cool with you coming here? I mean, has the city been pretty cool?
So I like that question a lot, and nobody's actually asked me that. So the city started out being very difficult. It's kind of interesting. Going into the county building, I had a very hard time like just getting straight answers. Like, what do I need to do to open up this type of business? And like nobody seems to know. They're just like, look online, and there's like these massive like encyclopedia novels that are 7,000 pages on the internet, and I'm just like spending weeks reading through them trying to learn, and I'm not learning anything. And after going into the county building for so long, so many times, I slowly started figuring it out, and they slowly started helping me. Okay, let's look into this together, type of thing. And and we'd spend time.
So you were having to learn the laws. Right. And learn all the codes and all the whatever. I don't even know what the proper terminology. And nobody's telling you anything.
That's correct. Yeah, laws and code, and like it is crazy. This type of business is like this crazy specific. It's like a subcategory of a subcategory of like a type of business. There's like, for instance, R is a code for retail. And like retail, very basic, like, a clothing store or something. Yeah. And like this type of business that we're in is called A3. And it's like It's an assembly is the genre. Assembly would be like an assembly of people. A3 is like the most specific of assembly. So like a church is an A3, and an arcade is an A3, bowling alley and amusement park. And for the most part, if you're moving into a building that was previously an A3 most recently, then you're pretty much set. It's not going to be too hard. But if it wasn't, then you need to basically gut the building, and like everything from inside the wall to underground to above needs to be like beyond the newest code. And that's kind of what I had to go through. Finding a business that like previously was an arcade or a bowling alley that's like not huge and reasonable, you know what I mean, like to pay for, because it's you find a bowling alley, think about it, it's like 20,000 square feet. Rent on that thing is going to be like 10 grand a month. You know what I mean? It's crazy. So anyway, that was like a whole fiasco of months and months trying to learn and trying to find buildings. Finally, I found this building, and it like wasn't too far off. I had like quite a bit of work. I had to build 2 bathrooms from scratch, do a bunch of demoing back there. I should show you pictures, because the back of this room here was like tremendously different. I had to like put some like covering on all these walls and all sorts of stuff.
And that was to get it up to code.
Correct.
To be able to do all that.
That's okay. Right. So I went through that whole process. We start moving in, and my neighbors, it's been a very interesting thing. This road here, Exchange Place, at nighttime on a Friday or Saturday night, it is just like this hopping district that like, I'm not even too hip to the club scene, you know, but I mean, you come down here and there's quite a few clubs and bars. People are bouncing around. There's a bunch of stuff going on. But during the day, it's Exchange Place. This is where the old stock exchange was. There's multiple law firms and stock exchange companies right here. These are my neighbors. And immediately, like the first week, they were definitely giving me grief. Because I was here with my contractor working. I like was working side by side, like hammering nails every day. And we'd be like listening to music. And they called the cops one time because we were listening to music like on a boom box, like while doing construction, nothing crazy. And the cops came and I talked to them, and they were like, okay, this clearly is nothing. And I went over and I introduced myself, and these guys over here to my one side were like really cool about it. It was kind of weird, but I just broke the ice by going over there. These guys over here, totally different story. They just, I don't know, they like recommended that I don't stay here and that I move, and that they don't want this type of business here. And I'm like explaining to them, like, I'm not serving liquor. This is a good thing. I'm like helping young kids, you know. They're just not into it. And that's totally fine. I've like worked to like become friends with them. I think that I've grown on them a little bit, but that's been a very interesting thing. Now, Uprock is right around the corner. They're like a hip hop store, and they've been amazing. Very warm, very welcoming. The Pie Hole is right around the corner. Same thing. Very warm, very welcoming. Couple bars, Wasted Space and Jackalope, same thing. They love me. And after being open for about 2 weeks, all of those businesses came and they like expressed gratitude because business has gone up for them.
Well, you feed off of each other.
Totally,
I mean, everybody,
man.
You know, go get a piece of pizza, go get a beer afterwards.
Exactly,
you know,
dude.
You're ready to party.
Yeah, and I mean, my capacity here is like 190, and like there's been a couple events. I mean, no more than a couple, but we've like hit capacity. And those 190 people that are here, like the show's over, they're going to stay close. I mean, these bars right around the corner, like their business was really good for the night. So it's been overall a really good thing. And by the way, by the end of the process of me finally getting opening, the local fire marshal and like the police detective that's over this district and like the head of business licensing at the county building, we're like on first name basis, and they've like been so warm and supportive, and they really helped me push it through like the last day or two. There was like the day before I was supposed to open, the city basically was like, this is not going to happen. Like after months of working on this thing, so much money, they were like, it's going to be at least a week. A couple people, key people that have just kind of helped coach me, like pushed it through. Called the supervisor of the supervisor and like pulled these miracles off for me. It's like an incredible thing. I like broke down emotionally in the county building, like when this fire marshal was like, I made it happen for you, go ahead and open up tomorrow. Oh man, my heart just like exploded.
Well, it's probably a lot of stress you were carrying every day, because it was a lot of money you were putting into the place.
Yeah.
And there was part of you, I'm sure, where you were like, oh my gosh, what if I don't pull this off?
Totally, man. I mean, that was probably like my biggest concern. It's kind of interesting because I mean, there's always critics, you know what I mean? And there's always like other promoters, whatever. And it's a weird thing to like be concerned with the idea of the reputation of like promoting a grand opening show for a month and a half and like spreading the word. The Shred Shed's coming back. Everybody's talking about it. Like a good little buzz started. And then if it didn't happen, I don't know. There's a whole wave of negativity that could potentially come from that. You know what I mean? Where it's like, oh, I didn't think that it could happen, and I saw that coming, and yada, yada, yada. And then that would be a whole other hurdle of, no, we really are going to open just next week. And like, oh man, it would have been really detrimental. It's like amazing that it did happen. It was a very stressful, crazy several months. Probably like the craziest, most stressful time of my life, realistically. It's pretty nuts. Yeah, a lot of money. Handful of people loaned me money. I like raised thousands of dollars by myself, just people donating, and like it's a beautiful thing. Like this Kickstarter page that I launched.
You did a Kickstarter, and did that go through for you? I mean, did you get enough money raised with the Kickstarter or no?
Yes. So the Kickstarter was a wild thing. I like had some money lined up, and it like wasn't really available when we needed to like get started. So I launched a Kickstarter page, and Kickstarter, if you don't hit your goal, you don't get a penny.
Exactly.
And that was like a little scary for me because I had no idea what to expect. And I spent like weeks researching different Kickstarter pages locally, nationally, in Salt Lake City, Kickstarter pages specifically for all ages venues, just like what I'm doing, and looking at the type of money that other people are raising. I mean, I saw anything from like all over the place. It was just a joke. Some people raised $500. Some people raised $500,000 to like open up a club. And like, I mean, I just didn't even know what to expect. I set the goal fairly low, in my opinion, which was like $1,000. I mean, I really needed about 3,000, but I just set it at 1,000. I mean, $1,000,
which is really low.
Yeah.
If thinking
realistically, opening a business, yeah, $1,000 is like gone in half a day, you know. Anyway, I set it at 1,000. I mean, $1,000 free is like nothing to shake a finger at. That's very helpful. You know what I mean? $1,000 is still $1,000, and I set it at $1,000, and I mean, like immediately, it just like blew up. It went viral. Like bands from out of state that my band has played with, bands that I've booked. I mean, like all across the country. I mean, there was like Oregon, Washington, California, North Dakota, Illinois, New York, Florida, Arizona, Colorado. All these different states were like sharing the event on Facebook, Twitter, making posts.
Why do you think it was? Why? I mean, do you have any reason, any idea?
It's a good question. I think it's funny. I don't know if I've spent enough time really like thinking about that, but I mean, to be honest, I think they just believed in me.
Yeah.
And I think that like the time that I've spent with these people, they were maybe just like, we built a connection, you know, and I think they knew that I was a genuine person and not really like it per se a capitalist or like, you know, I'm trying to open up this business so that I can retire at 30 and move to Hawaii. You know, it like wasn't.
Did you give anything in return? Like, you know, a lot of them, if you donate $20, $50,
Totally.
whatever, you get a free shirt or a free something.
Yeah. So I set up like multiple different reserves. A lot of people like opted out. You can like make the choice to like take no gift.
Really?
Like, yeah, a bunch of people did that, which is incredible. Yeah, and you can set up a time frame on like how long it will take you. And I set it out kind of long, like by March, I'll have all the gifts out to people. Just, I mean, while building the business, it's like hard to come up with things, you know.
So what did you offer? I mean, just out of curiosity, like what just an idea.
Think about it. Yeah, so a handful of different collectible pieces of art.
Okay.
Some of which is like hanging right there. See the one in the shape of Utah?
Okay.
I've got a bunch of those that were like hand drawn, and I've got all the originals. She made me like 10 originals.
They say the Shred Shed on them.
Yeah, and it's actually like an image of the first Shred Shed.
Okay.
That was the front window.
Yeah,
like
okay. I remember that place now.
So there was like artwork that I gave away. There was like passes to free shows. There was a bunch of silly stuff like, you know, that I would be announcing thank yous from the stage at, you know, the grand opening weekend, which I did. Man, I don't even know. I need to think about it. Just a handful of things.
I was just curious.
Yeah,
I was just curious.
T-shirts, like custom screen printed Shred Shed T-shirts, which I'll have made up. And yeah, show passes. I think that was kind of like the bulk of it. There was a couple people that donated like $200 and like opted out.
Yeah.
Like I seen that like is like, it's like an emotional thing, you know what I mean? Like gaining that type of support. But anyway, so I set it 1,000, and like I set it up with like a 9 or 10 day goal, because we like needed the money pretty quick, and like by the first weekend we hit $1,000, and it like ended at like 2,200, something like that. It was like,
So when it ends at over that, do you get all that money then too, or
yeah,
does it stay at a like yeah?
I mean, it takes them like 45 days to get you the money.
Holy
pretty
cow.
crazy, yeah. And they take like, I need to remember, but it's like 17% or something.
Yeah, I know they take a chunk of change.
Totally. It's like Amazon Payments, which is who they run it through, takes 10%, and then Kickstarter takes like 7%. So it was something like that. But I mean, we still ended up with about $2,000, which like tremendously helped. I like gave that 100% of it actually went straight to my contractor for building those bathrooms. But yeah, anyway.
Well, who was the first band? Like, what? Tell me about the first show. Who were the bands that played the first show here?
So the first show was fantastic. So local like metal hardcore band Gaza.
Oh yeah.
They're on Black Market Activities, good record label. They've been around for years. They put a new album out in the summer, and I mean, I obviously thought that I would be open a long time ago. You know, I'm learning as I go, and I signed the lease, and I'm like, okay, we'll be open in a month. It was 5 months later that I opened. Gaza, like a month after I acquired my building, they hit me up. They're like, we want to do our record release for the new album at the Shred Shed. I'm like, cool, give me a few weeks. You know, a month passed, another month. They waited. They didn't play a show in Salt Lake City. They waited for me. Finally, I got open, and they played the grand opening. It was also their album release. It was really cool. So Gaza played, local band called Eons, who played tonight. It's kind of cool. Eons, their name, Eons, they actually named themselves after a Loom song, which is my band Loom. So I like have like a special place in my heart for Eons, obviously. They're like fans of Loom, and they're really, really good. This other band, Cornered by Zombies, was really cool, 2-piece instrumental. They both just rip, just very talented. And then this band Fever Dreams, who are friends of Gaza. They're from St. George. Gaza really wanted them on the show, and they were fantastic. So those 4 bands played, and it was great. We hit capacity. We went a little over capacity. I mean, it was just packed to the gills in here. And actually that night, the fire marshal came by to congratulate me. He like gave me a hug and was just like, great job, man. And it was the funniest thing, because like a bunch of kids were freaking out. They're, hey man, the cops are here, and they like came and found me, and I'm like, okay, you know, let's handle business. And I go and I see him, and he's all, hey, and he just gave me a hug. It was like the funniest thing. But so that was the grand opening show. It was Friday, October 19th, and it was fantastic. There was just such amazing like positive energy in the air all night. And I had a show the following night and the following Sunday. Like there was 3 days in a row, and all 3 shows were really good. They were all a lot of fun.
How often do you have shows here then?
The weekends. Just weekends, yeah. I mean,
pretty much whenever you can probably get a show here, I guess.
Yeah. It's a weird balance, because I mean, I kind of want shows every single night, but I kind of don't, because I don't want to like burn people out. I like need more people to learn about the Shred Shed, and it's almost better if it's like, oh man, I want to go to the Shred Shed, but I have to wait a week. It's almost better, you know what I mean? It's like a weird balance. As of right now, I pretty much have shows like every weekend. There's an occasional like Tuesday or a Wednesday show, or Monday, whatever, if a touring band is coming through and they're on their tour, Salt Lake City happens to land on a Monday, the show will end up being on a Monday, you know?
Let's say you could pick any band you wanted to play here. Past, present, dead or alive, whoever you wanted. I mean, just your dream band. Who would you love to book here?
Totally. So it's like obviously a totally loaded question. And I have like probably a pretty loaded answer, but like, I mean, my like hands down favorite band by far is the Beatles. Like, no question about it.
Right on.
Maybe something that would be like maybe a little more feasible would be one of their solo projects. Even just having Paul McCartney like play like an acoustic set, or I mean, ideally probably George Harrison, who's my favorite. But it's like kind of maybe a silly answer. Like that would be incredible. Now another band that like would just be incredible would be the band Refused. And they're
great
like,
band.
Yeah, like hardcore band from Sweden. You know, that would probably just be it for me to be able to book Refused. But yeah,
it's like your dream band.
Totally.
So when you're not busy with doing booking shows here and running the shred shed, I mean, what are some other hobbies and interests of yours? What are some other things that you like doing?
Totally. So, I mean, I love to like travel as much as possible. And I don't really travel that much. I don't really have a lot of money. I work at Applebee's at the Gateway as a server, to pay the bills or whatever. And it's not really like a high revenue type of gig, you know what I mean? But my girlfriend and I try to do little trips to Denver once in a while. We've gone out there to see a couple concerts, and I still have a bunch of family in the Bay Area. We actually went and saw Refused 6 months ago. It was incredible at the Warfield, this really cool venue. That's definitely been my favorite part about being a part of Loom is touring, just leaving for a month and just going around the country.
So you've seen a lot of it. You've seen a lot of the United States and I mean a lot of it. Have you traveled much outside of the United States or?
Very little. When I was younger, it was some family trips. We went to my dad, my parents are divorced. Uh-huh. My dad is in the jewelry business, and he wouldn't give us anything for Christmas for a year and save up. And then for the next year, we'd go on a trip, and we went to the Caribbean a couple times. I lived in San Diego for a period of time. I went to man, I'm struggling. Sorry.
No, it's all right.
I went to gemology school. It's the Gemological Institute of America.
Wow.
I worked for my dad at his jewelry store when I was younger, and I just learned how to grade diamonds basically, and I just saved up some money. I took out a loan. It was kind of an inexpensive school compared to how much college costs, but I got a certificate, it's an associate's equivalent. And when I lived down there, we'd go to Tijuana all the time. Doesn't really count as living in the country, but kind of.
No, that's you'd be surprised how many people here in Utah haven't even left Utah.
Totally, yeah. It's it's like that everywhere. You go to Denver or San Francisco. It's I've actually never left. It's it's good to get out, see the world.
Yeah.
As much as possible, even in our little area.
And now you're back in Salt Lake running an all-ages venue.
Yeah.
And you're doing a great job at it.
Thanks a lot, man.
And I think that's about it. I mean, is there anything else you want to add? Or, I mean, to people to find you online and Facebook, and, I mean, where are outlets to find out about upcoming shows?
Sure, yeah. Thank you for the opportunity. I would say, please check our website, shredshedslc.com. as in Salt Lake City. They're actually, recently, there's been this chain of skate shops that's opened up on the East Coast called the Shred Shed. It's pretty interesting. So if you Google Shred Shed, you got to put in SLC for Salt Lake City. But I have a Facebook page and a Facebook profile. It's all Shred Shed SLC. But the website, I think, has everything. There's links for pictures, information, Facebook, Twitter.
And I'll put all those links on the iamsaltlake.com website too. That way, because with the show, and then I put the links with there, so that way people can get in touch with you, email you, maybe if they want to book a show here.
Totally, that'd be great.
I mean, get involved somehow.
Absolutely.
Volunteer some of their time to do something, I guess.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, I'm in the process of finalizing putting together a street team right now. Just a handful of friends to help hand out flyers, put up posters, whatever.
So if you're listening, get in touch with Jesse and be part of the street team.
Yeah,
right?
Totally. And I do have to say, one thing I do want to say is just thank you so much to Salt Lake City. The support has just been overwhelming. I mean, what you would think would be a competing venue, everybody's been incredible. Kilby Court, which does the same thing I do, they've sent me really good shows just to help me out. Bar Deluxe and Urban Lounge, which are kind of the premier bar venues for what they do, both of them have just been a ridiculous support. Bert's Tiki Lounge, which is the coolest dive bar in town, they've been a big support. Everybody's just been amazing. And the one thing I really want to do more is tap into more of a hip hop crowd and an indie crowd. A lot of my friends and connections are punk and hardcore, which is amazing. We have a really cool indie and hip hop scene here, and this place has a good image for it, I think. So I'd love to tap into that a little bit more.
Yeah, you actually do have some really in it, which maybe we should touch on for a second here. Some of the art on the walls. I mean, is that just a mix of different artists, or who did the art?
Yeah, so let's just start with what's closest to us.
Yeah.
We've got 5 canvases right here, and he has just a fantastic style, and I'm gonna probably slaughter his last name. His name is Brian, and his last name is Kuberwitz. And he's an incredible artist, and he's like an honors English professor, I believe English, at the U. He plays in a local band, and he is good friends with the owner of Bar Deluxe, who is also my friend. I work at Bar Deluxe occasionally as a barback, and she put me in touch with him. Her bar is covered in these same paintings. He's got like a very graffiti, like surrealistic style, and and I contacted him, and he like immediately brought these down. He's like, yeah, let's just hang them up. Let's just put them on the wall to help add something. Like, absolutely incredible. There's a huge stencil. Yeah. It's like probably 15, 20 feet. It's Sharon Tate. She was like a model in the late 70s, an actress. She was one of Charles Manson's victims. She's beautiful. There's a quote around her head that says, "The real revolution starts within." It's from a Refuse song from one of their first EPs called the Everlasting EP, and it's from a song called The Real. And Dennis, their lead singer, he just repeats that sentence over and over again. And it about 6 months ago, I was listening to the song in my car while delivering pizza for Este Pizza, and I just got hit with inspiration. It's just such a powerful statement. It's so simple, and it absolutely sums this venue up for me. So I had my friend Daniel Overstreet put that together. Original Hooligan is his moniker. Yeah. He does stuff around town. He's got a cool style. Over here, we've got some stuff by the guys from Good Times Tattoo.
Big fish and what does that say? Shred, yeah.
So my friend Nick McCorkle, he goes by the name Board. He did a bunch of pieces at the first Shred Shed, which was also covered in graffiti. So I asked him to come and do this. That's a walleye fish, which is like a Utah original. So just kind of paying homage to Utah. Now the four-eyed guy back there, that was done by my friend Ryan. He goes by the moniker Dusk. He works at Urban Lounge and at Uprock. He's a local hip-hop artist, and he's got just a really cool, unique style, so he did that for me. Slug Magazine has been a huge support to me. They're basically a sponsor. They help me out a lot, so I paid homage to them. I had a stencil made that said Slug. There's a tattoo shop called 27, and one of their guys there, John Lang, came and did this other piece that's over there. It says Berg. Berg is his tag name. His great uncle was the captain of the Titanic. Fun fact, pretty wild. Captain of the Titanic. He went down with the ship and everything, and that's his great uncle. So he pays homage by tagging Berg everywhere.
Nice.
And then some more pieces back there by Ryan Dusk and by the guys from Good Times Tattoo, Danny Matson, Alex Guy, Ben Martinez. So that kind of sums up all of the art.
Well, excellent. And then you got some other art, it looks like maybe for sale. Is this stuff you're selling
Totally.
too, so people can come here, buy art?
Absolutely.
Listen to music.
Yeah, exactly. Yep, dude.
This is great. 60 West Exchange Place. That's the address, right? ShredShed.com or ShredShedSLC.com.
Yes, sir.
And on Facebook.
That's right.
And Twitter. And all that good stuff.
Yeah, we're all over everything.
And you were going to say something else, I think. I think I maybe cut you off. I apologize.
No, that's okay. I think I was just going to say it's in between 3rd and 4th South.
3rd and 4th South. Actually, aren't you right across the street from the heavy metal shop?
That's right.
Yeah, heavy metal.
Paying homage to the local record stores.
Excellent. And so, so get in touch with Jesse. Support him. I mean, he's got a great thing going here, all ages. Big fan of that. And anything else you want to add?
I don't think so. Thank you so much for contacting me.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for being part of the podcast. All right. Seriously, thank you so much, Jesse, over at the Shred Shed, for sitting down with me and sharing your story on the I Am Salt Lake podcast, being a guest on here, and letting me talk to you. Seriously, you have no idea how much I enjoyed listening and talking with you. So check them out over on the show notes on episode 26 on the IamSaltLake.com website. I put their website, the Shred Shed SLC.com, as well as their Facebook, Twitter, email address, all that good stuff. So check that out. I've been getting a few emails of how you could support the I Am Salt Lake podcast, and I just kind of wanted to share a few with them on how you can share out with the podcast. First of all, the biggest way you could help out with the podcast is by donating $1 or $2. It helps keep the project going. It's not free to do, so every dollar that you donate helps out with the podcast. Go to iamsaltlake.com/donate. Hit that PayPal button and kick over $1 or $2, and that will help out. Also, if you want, go to audibletrial.com/IamSaltLake. The neat thing about this is you get a free audiobook, and by getting the free audiobook, Audible Trial will kick over a few dollars to the I Am Salt Lake podcast. So that's a really neat way to check out the podcast. You get a free audiobook. You get to check out audible.com and listen to cool books on your iPhone or other MP3 device. So that's really a neat way to help out with the podcast as well. If you don't want to do either one of those, take just a second, give us the ratings on iTunes. That helps us out, helps us get in front of more people. Leave us a comment at iamsaltlake.com, what you think of the podcast, or you could tweet about us or put a message to your Facebook friends about us. Share the podcast. Also, become a fan of us on facebook.com/IamSaltLake. Those are ways you could help out with the podcast. If you have any other thoughts or ideas, send us a message at iamsaltlake@gmail.com. Also, big thanks goes out to Christian Coleman and the Blues End Band for your continual support and for providing music on the podcast. That's going to be it for now. I'm going to be back on Wednesday with a brand new episode of the podcast showcasing a new individual, a new professional, or a new musician here in Salt Lake City, Utah. So until then, thank you very much for your support and for listening to the I Am Salt Lake podcast.